Hi, my name is Jacob Robinson, and I'm going to be speaking to you about ethnic and racial diversity in the classroom. Just to give you a little bit of what we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about the history of racial and ethnic diversity in education, current practices, what's going on now, and where we go from here. When we start, to dive into the history, the history is of our country is immigration. Immigration has been a huge part of our country. It's been said that we're a country of immigrants. We always have been. And wherever you have that much diversity, immigration from many different countries, you will have discrimination. And we have in our history. We know our history of slavery in this country. And even though it was abolished, there was still that history there, and that discrimination, that hatred there, and that led to things like, even after slavery was abolished, like the Jim Crow laws, which, for example, made it where there was a white bathroom and a black bathroom, and segregated schools were a big part of this, where you had a white school and a black school, and from this, hate groups rose up, such as the Ku Klux Klan and things, other hate groups, white supremacist groups, or several others, but from this, to go into history, we've had that discrimination, but through equality movements like Brown versus the Board of Education, whenever they ruled that it was unconstitutional, that segregation was unconstitutional, and from that you began to see desegregation happen. You saw the civil rights movement, or you read about the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King Jr., and you started to see a shift in equality. You started to see some of that discrimination fade away. It's not done. It's still out there, but it started to slowly fade away. And then also in our history, you've seen acculturation, which was a push towards a dominant culture, which was usually that white culture, and that was so ingrained in the curriculum in this country's history, and that's what we've dealt with. What educators have dealt with in the past in this country is. It's all been focused around trying to push everybody to fit one mold, to try to push everybody to fit one distinct culture. Thankfully, in current practices, we're slowly starting to try to get away from that. Curriculum is now starting to incorporate race and ethnicity in different ethnicities. There's a greater shift in some areas than others, but to include other cultures and to include other races. I think it's kind of geographically fueled. I think more urban areas and bigger cities, this is something that you see that's been happening for a while, and you see it more prevalent, that culture is really ingrained in their curriculum. Maybe in a more rural, poor area, higher poverty rate, maybe it's still not as ingrained as it should be. There's still some acculturation in it, but we're starting to see that shift. We're shifting away from that to where we ought to be. You're starting to see more inclusion-mindedness. All races and ethnicities you're starting to see included into the curriculum. We're trying to get equity, where everything is equal and fair. And you're starting to see harmful practices like color blindness, which is where a teacher says, I don't see color, I don't, you're all the same. Well, that is discrimination itself. That kind of, pushes acculturation, because you're taking away people's culture, their identity, and forcing them to be something else. But those are some of our current practices. To go into where we go from here, where we go from here is to keep incorporating a racial and ethnic diversity into the curriculum, to keep pushing it, to go beyond the textbook, to challenge inequalities. Any racism or discrimination that happens in education needs to be challenged, and new norms need to be set where that is not a problem, where that does not happen, where everybody, all cultures are respected and giving opportunities. We have to close that opportunity gap that's based on race and ethnicity that has existed in education, where some cultures and some genders and races were given more opportunities than others. We have to close that gap and provide more equal opportunities for everybody, no matter the culture. That is where we go from here. We continue to strive to do better, to have more racial and ethnic diversity in the curriculum and in education. That's the answer. And these guys are my references, and that's all I have for you. Thank you.